go. All right, cool. We're officially recording. Thank you guys for joining. Those of you who've just entered the Zoom room, here to hang out with Martine and myself this morning for the 44th ever knowledge drop on cooking and traveling and how those things mash together.
Wait, it's the 44th?
It's the 44th. So like an
so I'm Obama?
Yes! Yes, yes. The synchronicity is just on point. Love it. And so just to, I'll pass the mic over to Martine in a moment real quick, but just to go through this stuff in case you guys didn't know, I think you're all already using the chat box to go ahead and chat to each other as Martine is going through her slide deck and dropping all of her immense cooking and kitchen wisdom on you guys. And then there's also a Q&A box. So if you guys have a question you want us to get to at the end, we should hopefully have time for a handful of those. So feel free to use that Q&A box there. And then, like I said, this is getting recorded, so it'll be in the Knowledge Drop YouTube archive. We can go find all the previous knowledge drops, all the other 43 that weren't probably as good as the 44th, much like Obama. So let's get into it. Take it away. Let's do this.
Cool. Let me share my screen. Give me a second. Can you see it? Is it cool?
Looks great. Nailing it.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Come on, second screen. So you guys will see me looking over to the side. It's not because I don't like you, but I live the dual screen life. Anyway, I'm glad I'm the 44th. I wish I'd actually known and planned that because that makes it amazing. I'm Martine. For those of you who don't know me, I was a part of Magellan group number 4. Don't let Darians tell you anything different, okay? 4. You see how a lot of 4s come up? It just makes sense. All right, so today we're going to talk about taking your kitchen with you. Those of you that know me know that I'm super into food. I like to eat it. I like to cook it. I like everything about it. There are people out there who just kind of eat because they have to, otherwise they die. And I always feel sad for them because there's such joy from food. So some of the things I kind of like gleaned from being on remote year and just from my travels in general is when you go on trips, I think, especially on something like remote year, you're kind of thinking, you get the work thing figured out pretty quickly, right? You know, people at your office and people, you know, at your companies or whatever, and your friends might think you're on vacation, but you're like, nah, I actually have work to do because if I don't get this work done, I don't get these dollars to go play. But the thing that's a little harder to figure out is the food aspect, you know? So like, I don't know about you guys, but when I go on vacation, it is all like really just all about the food. So while being on the road and being on the road long term, being all about the food is all well and great, but then there's some health aspect that starts to kick in. So the things that we're going to talk about today is just that, like you being on the road and you want to eat all the things and then you do. And then what happens when you do that and then wanting to have your cake and eat it too. I like cake. Who doesn't like cake? I mean, well, it has to be good cake because mediocre cake doesn't work. And how cooking will save the day. I know that a lot of people want to get into this cooking thing. I'm a big believer that cooking is a life skill. Okay. So it's a life skill, period. I don't want to hear any arguments. It just is. And then how you can enjoy local flavors while maintaining your eating habits. So like, why am I the person to talk about this? Because I love food and I love to eat and I love everything about it. I went to culinary school just for fun. I went to culinary school with no intention of working in a restaurant. Not sure how many people you're going to meet that was just like, it wasn't like, oh, I went to culinary school and realized it wasn't for me. No, like I worked Kitchen Confidential and Tony Bourdain was like, if you don't love it so much that you dream about it, when you know, like you go to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, and it's the number one thing in your life, you shouldn't do it. And I was like, you know what? I really love it, but I'm not really sure if it's the first thing I think about or the last thing I think about. So maybe I don't need to be in the business, but you know, I'm going to go stitch with y'all anyway. So went to culinary school. And I've been hosting and cooking for dinner parties and small parties for me, my friends' parents since college. The main thing about cooking is just like to know your techniques and play with the flavors, and then that will get you far. So going back to that whole like travel equals food for me, like I don't know about you, but for me, it's food. Like the reason I travel, there are some people who go out there and they're like, there are tourist sites to see. Like I have to go to Sintra to do the castle thing. I have to do this, whatever. And it's not that I'm really anti that stuff. It's just not the thing that drives me. The thing that drives me is food, it's whiskey, it's people. Probably in that order. And sort of the activities like around that. So the thing that I research whenever I'm going anywhere is the food. Like what's a typical food? Like what are their farmers market like? What are the fine dining restaurants? I always check there's the world's top 50 restaurant in the world list. I check that every time I travel, because if I'm going in a city where there is one that actually, if I early enough, then I make some reservations. And when I'm on the ground, like, it doesn't stop. Every local that I run into, I'm like, what's your go-to spot? Where should I eat? Where's your mama's house? Still trying to get into everybody's mama's house, but that's just a side thing. So these pictures here are things that I ate in the last couple of weeks. I went to Mexico and I went to New Orleans and I ate all the things. So I figured you guys should have some of my food porn. It's amazing. Look at it. Yes. Are you hungry? Thank you. So all the things. This is like everything that I've eaten on the road, like literally everything. So I like to eat. Did y'all get that I like to eat? Okay, but then the thing that happens is, you're living this life of your body is not a temple, it's an amusement park, enjoy the ride. Tony Bourdain, again, he's got such good words for things. And I do enjoy the ride, except then, after like a few weeks, it starts to catch up with you. Like, you're not feeling as like energetic, you start gaining weight. But you also have like, from my cold dead hands, will you grab this jamon? Because I'm that person. I'm just like, yes, I need to have balance, but also this jamon though, it's delicious. So what can you do? I think looking at local markets, like they're your friends, cooking at home, wherever home happens to be, and then designate a meal or a day that's for eating out. So I used to do, when I was on Majaling, I used to do Fancy Fridays, and not that was the only time I ate out, but if you're sort of like set like, hey, I'm eating all my breakfasts at home, all my lunches at home, or whatever the case, at least there's some balance of like some point where you know exactly what's going in your body versus then the rest is just like adventure. What the hell? Go with it. And then explore fruits and vegetables. Like, as you travel, fruits and vegetables are the very thing, whether it's varietals of things, like, in Valencia, for example, the oranges are delicious. I'm not sure what crack they put in them, but they are. And vegetables. There are always new vegetables that you haven't seen before, so you kind of go for it. And also have a travel kitchen kit. We'll get to that in a second. So back to farmers market, they're your personal playground, or they're my personal playground. So I want it to be your personal playground. There's weird things in there. I'm the kind of person that's just like, I don't know what that is. So because I don't know what it is, I'm going to buy it. I know that a lot of people go with that, but really it's fun, I swear. And it's some things like I really like, couldn't tell you what they're called. I used to, when I was in Bogota for a while, like I would go down there for like a month and work from there. And then every week I would go to the market and go to the fish person and just like, I don't know what any fishes are called in Spanish. Like, my Spanish is pretty decent, but I have no idea what the fishes are called. So I would just like kind of get from them what kind of fish it might be and just buy it and then cook it a certain way. Like, once I had a river fish and I cooked it one way, I was like, I should have done this other thing because of the type of fish it was. But you know what? It was fun. It was still delicious. Everybody ate it. Nobody died. So we're good. Don't get that fish that you have to learn for years how to cut it or people die. Like, don't experiment with that stuff. Just, like the safer things. So buy it, ask the vendors what to do with it. Even if there's a language barrier, figure it out. They will love to tell you what you can do with, like, they're super excited that somebody who's not from the country just is like, hey, what is this? I want to eat it. What do I do with it? They'll sit there and tell you all the things. I mean, I once was in a taxi in Milan with a taxi driver who didn't speak any English or Spanish. So I was speaking to him in Spanish. She was speaking to me Italian. And he told me how his mom made his risotto. We figured it out. And then I went home. When I came back home, I did the risotto the way his mom did the risotto. Like, you can still have conversation with people even if there's a language barrier. So then the thing you do is you swap out these new ingredients and dishes that you already know. So cooking class remix. You go to cooking classes. Everybody loves cooking classes. You're like, I'm going to make this thing all the time. No, you're not. That's a lie. Stop lying to yourself. You're not ever making it again. But the things you can take from cooking classes are techniques. And also some of those like side dish. Like, if there's a dressing or a dipping sauce, you can use that as a marinade. Some of those flavors, some of those spices, you can incorporate that into your cooking, because I don't care how many pasta making classes you take, you're not going to make pasta at home. I don't remember the last time I made, but you know what I do? I source really good pasta from people who make fresh pasta. I'm not making pasta. I know how to make pasta. I'm just not doing it. I'm not that person. You might be that person. If you are, congratulations. Can you make me some pasta? But use the other things, like as part of that, and pull that into your cooking. And then cook at home. Like, you went to the market, you took the class, start pulling all those little pieces of the puzzle and put it together in your own kitchen. So with me, I make chicken a lot. I'm Haitian. This is what we do. Okay, we were born with chicken. Like, it's a thing. I braise it, I saute it. But I always say change the spices, change your cooking method, and you have a different dish. So what I do is I change up the spices a lot, you know. So when I go somewhere and I'm like, oh, they have these kind of flavor elements, you know, like I don't know where I picked up like fennel and orange or fennel and lemon with chicken. So I do a roasted chicken with fennel and orange a lot. That is not like a flavor combination that I grew up with, but it's something that I picked up in cooking a dish that I am familiar with cooking with. And then raid the locals, you know, the local markets, the supermarkets. The first thing I do in any market, even if I'm somewhere for like 4 days and I know I'm not going to cook, I'm still going to the market because I want to know what's there. I want to know what spices I can bring back home. I want to get ideas for flavors. Like that's just a way to sort of expand your cooking lexicon. Is that a thing? We'll just say that. Is to just always be looking at and getting ideas from everywhere. I opened up a book and they had like roasted eggplant with za'atar. I haven't had time to go to the spice shop, so I don't have any za'atar on hand, but like I understand the flavor combinations what's in za'atar, which is like very kind of Middle Eastern. So what does that mean? You know, get some cinnamon, get some ginger, get some cumin, get some garlic, really fresh garlic. And I've been doing this roasted eggplant dish. It's basically my addiction right now, and I make it at least once a week. It's really good. It gets nice, and then the garlic gets nice and sweet. Okay, we're not talking about that. Let me get back to this presentation. So, but when you do that, you have like a new dish, something that you are familiar with. Like I know eggplant. I've been eating eggplant, cooking eggplant all my life, but like I got this idea, and I didn't even do what they said, but like it kind of connected some other thing for me to do. So, and then your travel kitchen tools. If anybody has spent more than like 3 minutes around me, you know that I will tell you to travel with a chef's knife. Let me say that again. Travel with a chef's knife. When you're on long-term travel, do it. If I'm going somewhere for a short term, I tend not to do it because I don't want to have to check my bags. And I'm mostly team carry-on now, except for if I'm going somewhere long-term, in which case I'm not, only because I'm packing the knife. Still small amount of bags, but I'm packing the knife. And a microplane. Microplane has a lot of uses. It's hard to find other places sometimes. So I love my microplane. Those are the two things I kind of like to travel with. And as well as your favorite spices. For me, and I have to go on a hunt for it because I don't think they make anymore. I can't find it. Is a Sri Lankan curry powder. And not because I'm making curries all the time, but it's a really good cheat to add depth of flavor to a dish. So I had that with me on remote year, and I had my ghost pepper salt because everywhere outside the United States has really good avocados. We get like these avocado-like substances here. So when I leave the United States, what I do is eat avocados all the time. You know what's really good on avocados? Ghost pepper salt. And if you're like, but spicy things make me cry, I don't care. Go put some ghost pepper salt on your avocados. You're welcome. It's gonna make your life. So, and then you can add whatever it is based on what you cook. Like if you're a baker, you might want to bring, and you're American, because y'all don't, you know, we don't know what the metric system is. You might want to bring some measuring cups and measuring spoons because that's going to be like a hard thing to find on the road. Not impossible, but just difficult. But don't bring anything that you're not using on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be like a huge thing. But if you have a chef's knife, if you have a microplane, you can make pretty much anything work. Although I kind of was jealous of the people that had the collapsible Tupperware. Not gonna lie. Still jealous of that. Still don't own any, but still jealous of it. I think I need to go to Amazon after this call.
Martine, before you keep going, and
yeah.
Don't interrupt, but like, and also don't want to sound foolish, but I just don't know what a microplane is. What is that?
A microplane. Damn it. So I think we stole it from the woodworking people. So you can use it to grate things, but it's the consistency at which that it grates it. After I finish and while we pausing and getting questions, I might run over and get mine and show it to you.
Cool.
But yeah, like it's super tiny. It weighs like nothing. You've seen it. You just didn't know that's what it was called.
Okay, cool.
But it was stolen from like, you know, the hardware shop. I think somebody was just like, oh, this thing at the hardware shop, we can use it to grate cheese. It's really good for ginger. It's really good for garlic. It's really good for like things where you want to get like a fine kind of mince on it. All right. So in terms of like, okay, you came here to eat. So you see this beautiful picture. I still dream about this dish. It was like mussels with like roasted garlic and the lemon. I might have to make reservations to go back there. Anyway, sidetrack. So here's how you kind of like set yourself up for success. Set a routine. You know, everything else is, when you're on the road, everything else is changing. You're in a new city, you're in a new language, there's new people around you, your apartment's different, the tools in the kitchen are different, but like set some kind of routine. The thing that I used to do is as soon as I got on the ground, whether it was the first or second day, depending on when I land, I find the local like grocery store, market, whatever, and I stock up on some basics, whether it's just things for breakfast. Like if I'm somewhere for like a week, I'm not necessarily going to stock up for a lot of things, but I'll get breakfast items because I think, you know, having a really good, like healthy, balanced breakfast, like high protein breakfast, like is a thing that kind of gets me going in a day. And then sort out which meals you want to eat out and which ones you're going to eat at home, or home in quotes. And then stick with it. And then work in your splurges, you know? So like for me, it's Fancy Fridays. Sometimes it's Fancy Tuesdays. Okay, you might have to expand that depending on what's available in the town that you're in. But like work that in so that it's not like you're trying to keep yourself from something. I find like if you plan the like fancy dish, or you plan the day that you're just gonna eat all the things, like fuck your arteries, like then every other day that you're like, I mean, be better, it's easier because you're like, oh, that day of like fucking my arteries is coming up. And then don't forget the local markets for snacks and fun new ingredients. I know I said it, I'm just going to keep saying it because I think it bears repeating. And so like exploring with fruits and vegetables, you know, so I had to do a small Google, but there are like 2,000 types of fruits in the world, but we only eat like 10% of them. Did you know that? I didn't know that. So always like, so you can find new things to eat. Okay. Like just go find some new things to eat, you know, like, you know, an apple a day. Okay. Not apples. Like Vietnam has really great like greens for easy saute. Like that's like their thing. They love to saute greens. So go find the ones you don't know. And then like sauteing greens takes like all of 3 minutes, except for kale. Kale wants to take extra, but like stop, put the kale aside. You know what that tastes like. Go find some new greens. Peru has like a million okay, million might not be the real number. I don't know what the real number is, but a shit ton of potatoes. The sweet potatoes in Peru will change your life. So like go find, you know, stuff you know, but like different varieties, like see how they taste there. Like I remember the bananas in Colombia, like I don't know what is in them. They're so good. They're so much better than, again, I don't know what they feed us in the United States of America, but I need them to bring the taste back in all the veggies and the fruits because I like things that have flavor. God damn it, bitches. All right, so then we're gonna say, you know, just to summarize things, here's what you do. Set some habits, stick to them. Determine what meals you're gonna eat out. Set a game plan for when you do eat out and what you're gonna avoid, you know, so even if you're gonna eat out, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna have dessert today. Or, you know, with me, my liquids are water and alcohol. Ideally whiskey. I tend not to drink juice. I tend not to drink sodas. I do like to try Fanta in foreign places because they have really fun flavors, but it's still not something I'm having every day. Oh, and agrum in France because that shit is delicious. So there are like specific ones that I'm like, I'll go hunt down, but for the most part, I'm like, I'll have water or give me wine or give me whatever. That's how I kind of like cut some aspects, you know, some bad things out of my diet. And then keep your home stocked with healthy like options, fruits, veggies that are easy. And I say that are easy because like you can have veggies that take longer to cook, but if you have things like say bok choys or greens, things that are really easy to saute that don't take very long, you are more likely to eat them because it's not a chore to do something with them. And then cook at least 50% of your meals. Just cook at least 50% of your meals. If you do that, like that puts you way ahead. And then focus the other aspect of that, you can just focus on what you can add. You can just be like, I'm going to eat vegetables at every meal. Or for me, especially when I'm going on a fuck your arteries binge, I have a green juice every day. Like every day, no matter where I am, I find a green juice. That you can always find a green juice or get the ingredients to make it so that there's some kind of nutrients happening. And then take all of that and feed your friends. Throw a dinner party. Everybody likes food. Okay, well, they're those weird people, but they still come because they like the company. So either way, throw a dinner party, feed your friends. Or don't feed your friends, feed strangers. I have thrown dinner parties while in strange places with strangers. There was this time I went to Portland and I tried this wine and I was like, yo, this wine would be perfect for my oxtail. And the dude was like, oh, bet, you should get it. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to find oxtail in this town because, you know, my butcher's not in Portland, Oregon. So then I went to this restaurant. I was talking about, like, I want to make an oxtail because I found this perfect wine. And then he was like, because it was one of those counter places. So, like, the chef is right there. And then he was like, well, what's in your oxtail? And I told him, he was like, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I tell him all the things. He was like, oh, could you use some stock? And I was like, yeah, and this is one of the best restaurants in Portland. So he gives me veal stock. And he tells me where to go get the oxtail, and I make an oxtail, and I invite like the dudes from the winery to dinner to my house. And then, the chef was working that night. He was like, the only payment for giving me the veal stock was that I bring him back a container of oxtail. So I made oxtail, invited strangers over, fed them, and fed the chef that like shared like the ingredients. So like, feed people. Here's what you don't do, okay? Like, if you don't not have a game plan, okay? And then don't eat out every meal, because that's just going to fuck you up over time. And don't think it's too hard or you don't have a time. You have the time. You just have to plan a little bit. And don't be afraid to experiment. And don't leave your chef knife at home, okay? I'm sorry. Have I repeated that? Don't leave your chef knife at home. So I have homework for you because I think homework is fun. So this week, find one new ingredient, okay, that you have never worked with before, whether it's a vegetable, a protein item, a spice, just one, and use it in a dish. And then I want y'all to send that to me. I want to see it. And then remember to set up your habits, like, so if Tuesday's your shopping day and you're on the road, keep Tuesday as your shopping day. I tend to shop more when I'm on the road because like ex-US people tend to, only get fruits and vegetables that they're going to use in the next couple of days. So I adopt that lifestyle. But like otherwise for staples, like once a week, I'm going to go stock up on the things that I need. Eat everything within reason, plan ahead, and then cook at least some of your meals. I said 50%. So that sum means 50%. Food is an adventure, jump into it. And then if you like a dish at a restaurant, ask the chef if they mind teaching you how to make it. I've had chefs teach me how to make things. So like this picture of these roasted tomatoes was just last week in Mexico. I had this at a tasting menu. They did this mole. I was like, yo, this is fire. Can I learn how to make it? They're like, sure, come through. And I came on the Friday, like early, well before service. And he sat there step by step, showed me how to make it, and actually sent me home with stuff that I left in the freezer of my Airbnb. But I told him he had to make it and send me pictures. So it's all good. It's all good. Anybody in Mexico, bring me back those peppers so I can make some mole. Thanks. Bye. All right, that's it. Y'all got questions? And this is a Haitian flower picture because the thing that I do everywhere in the world is take pictures next to flowers because that's what my people do. Go ahead.
Love this picture. Also the roasted tomatoes picture. All the pictures in there were amazing. And the chat box was just people being like, I'm hungry now.
Yay! I love hungry people.
So hungry. You want to jump off a screen share and then we'll get to a couple questions. Yes, awesome. So feel free to put some questions in the Q&A box if you guys are, anything came to mind during the presentation. I've got a couple though. My first question. Well, actually, I'm curious. Like, so you mentioned something about like the restaurant top 50 list, but what else do you do like in terms of just like trying to get, like, are you looking like for Michelin star restaurants only when you're traveling to new cities? Or are you like, where do you find like the street level information? Like that's the best spot over there. Like, how do you
I don't look for just Michelin star. Actually, I don't think I've ever looked for Michelin star. I think by looking at the top 30, they end up being Michelin star. I do that. New York Times 36 Hours is actually a really good resource. Troll through some of the Tony Bourdain stuff, like where he's been. I've looked at that. And then once you go to like the first restaurant, ask the people there. Or if you're like at one of those open kitchens, ask the chefs. Like the thing that when I was in Mexico, I went for my birthday, I did the tasting menu and it was an open kitchen. So like the chef was actually like, I was sitting right behind him. So he kept turning around and talking to me. So I was just like, okay, what's the list? Like and I have a little notebook like this big that I travel with, and I'm always writing things down in it. So he like took it from me and just wrote down, I was like, yo, so I want the tacos with the lengua, with the cabeza, with all the weird shit. He was like, this is where you go. This is what you do. And he wrote down a whole list for me. And then I had another friend who's Mexican. My first night in town took my phone and just dropped all the stuff on Google Maps for me. So I couldn't even get to everything. So the places that people kept repeating, so if I asked this person, and one place came up on everybody's list, I would hit those places first. So it's really just like initial research. And then when I get on the ground and ask, it's kind of like, I think Puyol is like the restaurant everybody talks about in Mexico City. And they were like, yeah, here's the thing about that. He's kind of a businessman now. He has a lot of restaurants. So when he's there, it's awesome. But when he's not, it's not as good. And like, that's the kind of thing that you're only gonna get from people in the business. So ask the people who are in the business. Don't ask your hotel people. I mean, you can, but like definitely get that corroborated. Ask people in the business. You go to a restaurant, you eat. You're like, where else should I eat? If you really like the food, then you can at least trust that they know what they're doing, ask them what you should eat. They'll tell you. They love to geek out about food. Food people love to geek out about food.
So true. That's so true. Like any chef would probably have the list of like in their city, like the places that they would send out the people that they send out. All right, last question. Let's close with this. Two-parter. Weirdest food you've ever had, and then the hardest meal you've ever cooked.
Weirdest food I've ever had was like those ants. Not because I haven't had ants before. I did have ants and like grasshoppers and an ice cream, but I always said if I have to eat bugs, they need to be chopped up, and they can't look like a bug. So it's not that I'll try anything once. And then I looked at that and I was like, so that's a whole ant just like sitting in the sauce. You just want me to eat it? Okay. So for me, that was the weirdest food I've ever had. And the hardest meal I've ever cooked. Ooh.
Like most complicated, most involved.
I think most involved. Okay, so this had to be back in culinary school because there's no way I'm making that meal again. I shouldn't say there's no way, but the chances are. For our like graduation, we do what we call like a grand buffet. And then so basically for a week leading up to the day, and you invite your friends and family to the graduation to eat all the stuff you've been cooking. And we're cooking for like a week, and it is pâtés, like all of the pâtés, all of the like terrines and all of those things. Like those are just multi-step processes and kind of delicate to get like exactly right. I think I'll make one. I actually have not made a terrine since culinary school, and I think it'd be kind of fun to do one again, but it's definitely involved. The most, not so hard, but like takes 3 days to make, are croissants. And I used to make them, but then one time I made them and my friends ate it in 3 minutes, and I was really pissed that they ate it really fast when it took me 3 days to make them. So I was like, I'm never making this for your bitches again. And I didn't.
That is so funny. Actually, always like whenever I have a croissant, I'm always like, this is so like intricate. Like, who made this?
Yeah, it's intricate.
Like, complicated.
You have to fold the dough, and the folding of it makes layers. The reason it takes like 3 days is because the dough has to rest a lot in between each fold. So you basically like fold it a few times, and there's an exact number of layers that you're looking for. I don't know what that number is anymore. But you fold it a few times, you let it rest for 4 hours, you do it again, you wrap it, and you do that like, you start with a dough, and you start with butter, and you flatten out the butter, and you put the butter in the middle of the dough, and then you fold it over, and then you roll it out. And then all you're doing is folding it over so that basically you end up with like dough, butter, dough, butter, dough, butter, but like multiple layers.
Getting so hungry now.
You're welcome.
Tweet came through with a question too. Actually, she was asking, is there some sort of cheat sheet out there in the world, or something that you use that lets you know what spices go together, or like, where did you get your like depth of knowledge when it comes to that?
It starts with my mama and my aunts and all the women in my family. Like Haitian culture, we do a lot of braises, which is all about building flavors. So you I grew up like understanding how flavors go together, but there are cheats. Like I think I don't like to rely on recipes, but recipes give you ideas of what goes together. And then another thing is, I'm looking at my bookshelf. Where is this book? Oops, things are falling. So there are things like this. I don't know if you can read it. It might be backwards. I've had this for like sauces, Peterson's sauce book. This thing is a Bible because it's all about sauces and all the different sauces that go together, but it also just talks through about like flavor combinations within sauces. So this is a really good resource. And then, isn't it funny that like all my cookbooks are like right in front of me? This one, I think, it's been a while since I looked at this, but Culinary Artistry also is a good resource. But you can Google, like there are whole like articles and things that show you flavors that go together. And once you get like the initial kind of baseline of flavors that go together, then you can start experimenting. And also think about different foods. Like if you have Indian cuisine, like what are the flavors that are always in that? They always have garlic, they always have ginger, there's always cumin, there's always cinnamon and allspice. So that's a grouping. So you can kind of play with that. You change the amounts within it, and that's how you start playing with it. But there are lists out there. I mean, I can probably put one together or grab one, but there are a bunch of ways. A part of it is just experimenting. After a while, you're kind of gonna work it out because it's not gonna taste right.
So keep playing. All right, we'll shut it down. Got one last quick question. What's your favorite cooking show out there in the world right now?
My favorite cooking show. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I am loving, what's her first name? Nosrat, the one that's salt, acid, heat, fat, mainly because that's how I cook.
Yeah.
And one of the jellies actually, when that book came out, like, you know, send me the link. She's like, you need to get this book because that's how you talk about food. And I'm like, oh yeah, she does talk about food the way I do. And it's just how professional cooks think about food. Like, we don't think in terms of recipes. And a lot of it is just thinking in terms of flavors, in terms of technique.
Elements.
And it's just like, how do I balance it? Like Asian cuisine, whether it's Vietnamese or Japanese or Chinese, are really good at that in terms of like really just like riding the line of balancing flavors in a very particular way. And it's cooked so quick. That's actually the toughest types of cuisine to learn, because especially like Chinese food, like raw cooking, because there's no adjusting. You know, you have to get it like spot on, because like it cooks so quickly that if you don't get it spot on, then it's like, oh yeah, fuck it up. Versus like braises and things like that are a lot more forgiving in terms of the things you can do.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I could continue to talk about food and get hungrier and hungrier, but
as could I.
Yeah, it's about time for lunch for me, or late breakfast or whatever. But yeah, thank you again for doing this and sharing your knowledge with the nation. This is awesome. And like, yeah, definitely anybody that's here or watches this in the future will get hungry, certainly, from just thinking about all the stuff out here. And yeah, some people are chatting in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us as well. Anybody that watches this in the future, appreciate y'all. And we'll be back with another knowledge drop in 2 weeks.
Ciao. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day, y'all. Bye.
Bye. Ciao.